So hope you guys are able to see the screen where you can see today's agenda. So one request from my end is that request you to be on mute. I will answer all your questions at the end. So whenever we are discussing these concepts, right? So if you have any questions, just make a note of it at your end or put it in the chat window. I'll just answer all of them at the end. Because once I keep answering in the middle, the demo session might get deviated. This is only just for today. Where in our regular sessions, you can ask questions, as and when you want. Okay, as and when you get any doubt, you can definitely pause me there and we can discuss. But just for today, we shall discuss all the questions at the end. Okay. So our agenda for today is to discuss about what is performance testing, and then the LoadRunner architecture, and we will also see a practical example of how to record and replay the script, okay, using Vuegen, which is one of the component of LoadRunner. And then we will discuss about the LoadRunner course content, and then finally we will discuss about the question and answers. Okay, so what is performance testing? So I would like to share a slide. Okay, um, so before discussing what is performance testing, the overall testing, in the software development life cycle is divided into functional testing and non-functional testing. Okay, functional testing and non-functional testing. So as part of functional testing, we actually test the core functionality. We actually test the core functionality of that particular application. Okay, for example, if you take any bank application, what is the core functionality of a banking application? Transferring money from one account to another account, paying credit card bill, downloading bank statement. All these can be the core functionality of the banking application. So when you test whether that particular functionality is working fine or not, then that will be called as a functional testing. So you transfer money from one account to another account. If you are able to transfer successfully, then that means that functionality is working fine. Okay, and with respect to this aspect, there is something called automation, functional automation testing also. There are some tools like Selenium, UFT. You might have heard earlier. They used to call us QTP. Now they are calling us UFT, and we also have Selenium and some other tools. Okay, to test the functionality. Okay, using automation. Okay, so that is the functional testing concept. Okay, now if you take the non-functional testing, which is on the right hand side here, the testing the non-functional aspects of the application like performance, security, usability, etc. So it is mainly related to testing the non-functional aspects, okay, such as performance, security, usability, etc. So performance testing is also a part of non-functional testing. And what are the different tools that we use? We have different tools in the market, of course. Some of the most widely used tools are LoadRunner, Jmeter. LoadRunner, Jmeter are the most widely used tools. Okay. Now, if you take another example, for example, let's say a lift. Okay. So we all know the lift. So, for example, if you enter into the lift and if you press, maybe let's say you are in the ground floor, and you enter the lift and you press 3, that is the third floor button. So when it comes to the functionality aspect, the functional testing aspect, when you press 3, it should go to the third floor. That is testing the functionality, just giving an example. Okay, now when it comes to the performance, okay, that is the non-functional aspect, how fast it is going from ground floor to third floor is about the performance. Okay, what is functionality? Whether it is going to the third floor or not. What is performance? How fast it is going to the third floor. That is an important difference between functional testing and non-functional testing. Okay, I can correlate with the normal application also. For example, this is a normal sample UI application. Now, if I ask you to test the login part of this application, if I ask you to test the login part, okay, how do you do? You just enter some username and then you enter password for this particular application, click on login. So when you enter a valid username and password, okay, and when you log in, if you are navigating to home page, then that is that means the functionality is working fine. The login functionality is working fine. But as a performance tester, we are not much interested in in this aspect. Of course, this is very important. Without this, we cannot do performance testing. Without functionality, working, we cannot go ahead for performance testing. But as a performance tester, we are more interested in knowing how fast the user navigated to home page. For example, when you enter username and password again, and you click on login button, much time the user has taken to log into this, to navigate to this page. Okay, how much time the user has taken to navigate to this particular page is all important for us as a performance tester. It can take 1 second, it can take 2 seconds, it can take 0.5 seconds. Okay, it can take 3 seconds also sometimes. Okay, now you can ask me, so generally how much time it has to take whenever you click any link, whenever you click any link or any button, okay, on the UI, generally how much time it has to take to navigate from one page to another page. So ideally, the industry standard is 2 seconds. So when you click a link or click a button, you should navigate from one page to another page within 2 seconds. Of course, it can be 3 seconds, 5 seconds also, depending on the application complexity. Okay, but overall, the industry standard is 2 seconds. Okay, now I hope you got a little bit understanding about what is performance testing. Okay, now I will write the same thing here in a single line. So performance testing is all about checking the performance of an application, okay, by applying some load. Okay, so checking the performance of an application, yeah, we understood this point. By applying some load, what do you mean by this, by applying some load? Okay, so if I go back to the example of that particular lift, okay, if a person enters the lift, okay, and press 3, that is third floor, let's say, of course it will go to third floor. What I said is how fast it is going to third floor is important for us as a performance tester. But generally, how we have to test is by applying some load, or by applying the expected load. So when a lift is built, they will mention how many max people can enter, right? They lift, let's say if they say 8 people, okay, so when 8 people are inside the lift and you press third button, how fast it is going to third floor is important. That is checking the performance. That is checking the performance by applying some load. Load means here in this case the number of users, the number of users accessing the lift. Okay, the max capacity of that lift is 8 people. Now when 8 people enter the lift and press 3 button, how fast it is going to third floor? Okay, so that is checking the performance by applying some load. Okay, so by going through this particular line, hope you understood the uh, meaning of the performance testing. It's all about checking the performance of an application by applying some load. So why I have written application? Because generally we test UI applications mostly. we test software applications. Of course, I have given you the example of Lyft, but here, when it comes to performance of the software, that means we are testing the performance of a software application, right? So now, even if you take this example, whatever we have seen just now, let's say this is some application like flight ticket booking application, like book my show sorry like make my trip, or any other flight ticket booking system. Now, if you want to test the performance of this sort of load that you have to apply, okay, so you might apply the load of 50 users, you might apply the load of 100 users, you might apply the load of 1000 users, depending on the requirement. So checking the performance of this application by applying some load, okay, is, you can call it as performance testing. Okay, so that is the high level information or definition of performance testing. Okay, so now, why performance testing? What happens if you don't do a performance testing? What happens if you don't conduct any performance testing for any application? What can happen? What is that? What is the result? See, basically, if performance testing is not conducted, then applications might face problems like slowness, pages loading forever. You might have seen, so many times when you try to browse any application, any website, and the page keeps on loading forever, or the page will be too slow to load. Okay, so what for what reason? Because they didn't conduct performance testing properly for that application. Okay, so if you don't go for performance testing, then the applications might face problems like slowness, pages loading forever, inconsistency, and may further result in business loss as well. Okay, how many of you remember? I think in 2013 or 14, if I remember exactly, that was the very first time the e-commerce, the famous e-commerce website, they announced a big sale or a festival sale. If I remember exactly, it could be a big sale or a festival sale. So what happened on that day? Uh, let's say the big sale started at 12 p.m. 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. maybe. Let's say the big sale is scheduled at 12 p.m. Because it's a big sale or the festival sale, more number of people access the application than normal days. Okay, what happened because of that? The application crashed. Okay, I don't know how many of you remember. The application crashed for the very first time when they introduced big sale or the festival sale. The application crashed. Okay, it incurred a huge loss to them. Okay, so why? Because they couldn't anticipate the number of users, okay, before itself. They didn't conduct the performance testing properly. Okay, so they expected, let's say they expected 1 lakh users. On that day, 10 lakh users access that application. So what happened? The load was 10 times more than expected. Then it can result into the application crash. Then it may further result in business loss. Okay, so then from the next time onwards, they have taken care of that. They have been doing this performance testing and engineering activity very well. That's the reason whenever there is a big sale, you are not seeing any crashes. Okay, sometimes here and there the application might load slow, but you never, I think you have never seen application crash. Okay, for those big sales, festival sales, and so on. Okay, so performance testing is very, very important aspect. Without that, an application cannot be released into the market. So I will give you one more example. So let's say you are using any Gmail, or not Gmail, any email, in fact. Okay, you are using some email. Now let's say that you know you drafted an email, you clicked on send. It is not the email is not being sent. It is very, very slow. Okay, so you observed this once, twice, thrice you observed. What will you do for the fourth time? You will simply launch another email, you will simply use another email service provider, and then you will continue to use that. That means the first email service provider, okay, is will definitely lose a user. Okay, that means indirectly is is losing a business, right? So simple. Nowadays there are so many applications online also, through mobile. If you feel that any of the application that now, let's say there are so many online store purchase apps. Okay, you download any of the app, you try to purchase some of the groceries. Now if any of that particular app is very slow, what will you do? You simply switch to another app, right? That means that particular app is losing a customer, losing a business, losing business. So that's the reason perform to the market. So performance testing ensures that all the bottlenecks must be fixed before the application is deployed into production. That means before the actual real users use, every issue must be fixed. So bottleneck is nothing but an issue. In performance testing terminology, we call it as a bottleneck. Okay, so very important aspect. Okay, very important aspect. So if you see the first statement here, the goal of the performance testing is to find performance bottlenecks or performance issues rather than finding functional issues. Okay, so that is why performance testing is very important. Okay, hope you got some clarity about what is performance testing, why it is very important. Okay, just a second, guys. Okay, so now just because we got a little idea about what is performance testing and why performance testing, let's move to the second point here, load runner architecture. Why load runner architecture? Because this course is all about load runner tool. There are different tools available in the market like LoadRunner, Jmeter, NeoLoad, Gatling. Okay, but as I said, LoadRunner and Jmeter are the most widely used tools in the market. Now, because this course is all about LoadRunner, we will be discussing the LoadRunner architecture first. We'll understand how that LoadRunner works, okay, and then we will come back and do a small practical example. So let me open the slide for that. Okay, now we will derive the LoadRunner architecture diagram by by asking some questions to ourselves only. For example, let's say there is a banking application. Okay, there's a banking application, bank website. Now if I ask you to test if I ask you to do a performance testing for this banking application with 500 users, okay, so what can you do? Will you bring 500 people and give them 500 laptops and make them sit at one place and ask them to log into a banking application and perform some actions? Is it possible? Okay, if I ask you to do a performance testing for this banking application with 500 users, because when you test with more number of users, then only it's called performance testing. When you test with single user, it is not called as a performance testing, right? So that means, let's say if I'm asking you to do a performance testing with 500 users, then how will you do it? Will you bring 500 users and give them 500 laptops and make them sit at one place in a room and ask them to log in at a time and perform some actions like transfer money, download statement, and all those things? Not possible. Okay, because you cannot bring 500 people at one place and give them laptops and test the banking application. It involves huge amount of financial dependency. Oh, let's say you brought 500 people. That's okay. In worst case, let's say you brought 500 people, made them sit at one place, and asked them to log into application. Now, if I ask you to test the same application with 5,000 users, if I ask you to test the same application with 5,000 users, then will you bring 5,000 people? No, right? You cannot bring 5,000 people. Okay, so that's the reason there is a component. There is a component in LoadRunner architecture which is called as load generator. Okay, this component is purely responsible for generating the virtual users. Generating the virtual users. So these virtual users, okay, mimic the same human behavior. Like they log in, they perform some actions like transfer money, download credit card, download statement, pay credit card bill, and all those actions. Okay, so this load generator is also a machine. Okay, it's a machine which is configured with high uh, you know hardware configuration, like good amount of RAM, CPU, processors, and all those things. Because the load generator is a component that should generate virtual users. How many virtual users each load generator can generate? It depends on the configuration of load generator machine. Okay, and it also depends on what type of application we are testing and what type of protocol and all those things. Okay, but at a high on a high level for now, just understand that load generator is a component which is used to simulate virtual users. That means instead of bringing 500 or 5,000 people directly, okay, instead of doing that process, okay, this component load generator will simulate the virtual users for us. Okay, these virtual users also perform the same actions like the normal users. Okay, now that you have the virtual users ready, now that you have the virtual users ready, then you have to test some functionality for performance, isn't it? Now you have to test some functionality for performance. Now let's take the banking application only here. What is the common important scenario for banking functionality? That is transfer money. This is a important functionality. Without transferring money, a bank cannot application cannot run, isn't it? If the users are not able to transfer money from one account to another account, will the bank application run? Nobody will use that application. So this is one of the important functionality. So what are the different steps that are involved in this? So normally generally what the user does, if you want to transfer money, what a user does normally? So first user will launch application, then log into the application, then navigate to your account, isn't it? Navigate to your account. You might have different accounts, right? That's the reason. Then select a beneficiary to whom you want to transfer the amount. Okay, enter amount and let's say click transfer, something like that. Then log out of the application. Isn't it? These are the steps. These are the steps to transfer money, isn't it? Yes or no? These are the steps to transfer money, yes or no, right? So, so the next component, okay, is used to develop scripts or to record scripts or generate scripts for these sort of functionalities, for these sort of scenarios. So in one application, there might be different scenarios for transfer money, paying credit card bill, download statement. You might have to test performance for different scenarios like this. Then how do you test that? You need to have those scripts ready. You need to have some piece of code, okay, which can run and test this functionality. Okay, so if for now I have taken transfer money for which we have these steps: launch application, log in, navigate to your account, select a beneficiary, enter amount and click transfer, log out, right? So for all these steps, you have to record and generate the script. You have to record and generate the script. So what is the component for that? The component to record or and generate the script, okay, is Vusion. Vusion is a component which is used to generate the scripts for the different functionality that you want to test. Okay, now Now you have view users ready. Now you have view users ready. Then you have scripts also ready. You have scripts also ready with this Fusion. Now, then there should be some component which is used to execute or trigger the execution, which is used to trigger the execution. So because you have scripts ready. Now you have to upload these scripts into some component and then trigger the execution. That component is called controller or performance center. Okay, that component is called controller or performance center. So this component is used to upload the scripts and then trigger the execution and then monitor the execution. Okay, that is the responsibility of this particular component. Now, when the execution is happening or when the execution is completed, there should be some component which should give us the exact accurate results for whatever the scenarios we have run. It should give us the accurate results for us with respect to performance. It should give different metrics in terms of different graphs. So that component is called analysis. Analysis is a component which is used to give a detailed analysis report to us, and along with that it will give us various metrics in terms of graphs to analyze in detail. Okay, so these are the different components that are part of LoadRunner architecture. Okay, there is one more component, okay, which is connected to LoadRunner and controller, okay, which we call it as agent process, okay, which will be installed by default whenever you install LoadRunner in your machine. So this will connect controller and load generator. So why it will connect, we will discuss in detail in our upcoming sessions. But all in all, these are the different components that are part of LoadRunner architecture: load generator, view gen, controller or performance center, analysis, and then you can also call agent process. Okay, so this is about the LoadRunner architecture, guys. Very, very important from interview perspective also. Very important from interview perspective also. If you attend any interview, they might definitely ask you to explain the different components of LoadRunner architecture. Okay. Now, uh, so whatever the questions you have, in these two points, okay, like what is performance testing and the architecture, you can make a note of it, or you can just copy paste in the chat window, okay, so that we can discuss at the end of the session. Now, what is the third point to discuss? Okay, a practical example of how to record a simple functionality. Okay, so now the simple functionality what we are going to record and generate the script is login functionality for any application. Okay, so if you want to test the login functionality of an application, what are the different steps that are involved? First, launch application. Okay, launch application, then log into the application, then obviously log out of the application. These are the three steps, isn't it? These are the three steps. Now, can any one of you ping in the chat window what is the component that I have to use for recording and generating these steps now? See, I mentioned these steps. I want to record and generate the script for this login functionality. So what is the component that I have to use? Can anyone ping in the chat window?
Fusion, it's Fusion.
Yeah, so you have to use ViewGen. ViewGen is a component which is used to record or generate the scripts. That's what we have discussed, right? In the architecture. So what I'm going to do now, I am going to launch, ViewGen. Okay. How? Because let's say LoadRunner is already installed. How do you launch ViewGen? So just go to search and type VUG and ViewGen. So it will display this particular icon for you, and if you click on it, it will launch the ViewGen component. Okay, the Vusion component is being launched now. Okay, just a second, guys. Yeah, it will be launched. Okay, there you go. So this is the screen that you see when you launch Vusion. Okay, so you go to File. Okay, we will discuss all the options one by one in our upcoming sessions. But for now, you go to File, click on New Script and Solution. Click on New Script and Solution. Okay, and then here, basically, this is a protocol that we have to choose for web applications, web HTTP, HTML. We will discuss in detail in our upcoming sessions regarding that also. But for now, just see these two options, like the script name, and the location. Okay, so where do I want to store the script or save the script? Let's say I will create a new folder and save the script there separately. Let me create a new folder. Okay, so let me create a new folder here. Let's say I'm going to save it as uh, feb underscore okay 8 a.m. Okay, so in this folder I'm going to create the script. The name of the script I have given is, let's say, demo. Name of the script is demo. Ideally the script name should be the functionality name. Generally the script name should be the functionality what you are testing. So for now I've given demo. We will see how we have to give the naming convention and all in our upcoming sessions. Just click on create button. So when you click on create button, the default script layout will be something like this. So this is where the script will be generated once you record. On the left hand side, you see this is called Solution Explorer, where you have different options, which you have to use for recording or replaying the script. Okay, which we will see one by one slowly in our upcoming sessions as well. Okay, now how do you record? So if I record, the script will be generated here. That's what I told. How do you record? You can record in two ways. One is you can click on this record option, record button. Other option is go to the record option in the menu bar, and then if you click on it, you will get record. You get an option of record. See? Okay. Alternatively, simple way is to click on this record icon here. Okay. Now I will click on that record icon. Okay. Now ignore this option. Now we will discuss in detail in our next session. Uh, Here you see which browser you want to use for recording. Do you want to use Firefox? Do you want to use Edge? Do you want to use Chrome? Which browser do you want to use? You have to select this browser. Of course, if the browser what you want to use, if it is not listed here, you can add it, which we will discuss in our upcoming session. Okay, for now let me choose any of the browser. Let's say Firefox. And then here in the next option itself, you have to provide the URL. Okay, your application URL. What is the application that you are testing? That application URL you have to provide here. That application URL you have to provide here. Okay, so the application, what is the application that I want to test? Let's say the application that I want to test is this only, the web tools, which is a sample application given by the LoadRunner vendor only. Okay, so what is the functionality that I will test? I will launch this application, then I will log into this application and I will log out. Okay, so what is the URL? This is the URL which I'm copying from the address bar. If you see the address bar above, okay, I'm copying that URL, and then I will go to the tool and I can paste here. I can choose it from here like this, like this. This is the URL. Same URL, localhost 1080 webtour/index.html. Now the remaining options we'll discuss later. Okay, not required now. So we have chosen the browser, whatever we want to record, and then we are choosing the URL also. What is the application that we want to test? And then click on start recording button. When you click on start recording button, what will happen? This browser will be launched with this URL. This browser will be launched with this URL. Okay, so let me click on start recording, and then you will see Firefox getting launched with the WebTours URL. Okay, you see that the browser launched. Okay, probably it should load the URL now. See that it launched the URL. See, Firefox browser launched with the given URL. Okay, and then you see here there is a movable window. Okay, which also is displayed during the recording. Okay, so this movable window is very important for recording. And you see there will be some number over here which keeps on increasing. Okay, so whenever you perform some action on the UI, this number keeps on increasing. If the number keeps on increasing, actually it is a good sign. That means the tool is able to successfully record the flow or the record the application for you. Okay, so if this number is not getting increased, if the number is like 1 2 3 or something like that, a single digit number, then that could be an issue with the recording. Okay, but when the number keeps on increasing, okay, as and when you perform some action on the UI, then it's a good sign. That means the tool is able to successfully record the application. Now there are different options over here. Okay, like stop recording, pause recording, cancel recording. Okay, create new action, and all, checkpoint comments, checkpoints, and all these things. We will discuss all of them later, but now what I will discuss is only these two. So these two are important during recording, very very important. So this option is insert start transaction. This option, which is currently disabled, is insert end transaction. So insert end transaction option will be enabled only when you click on insert start transaction and give some name. So what is this insert start transaction and insert end transaction? So if you want to know how much time it is taking for login, how much time it is taking for logout, you have to start that particular transaction and then end that particular transaction. Then only the tool will be able to calculate the response time, the time that has taken to log in, log out, and all those things. So observe carefully. I'm clicking on this insert start transaction now. Okay. Now I have to give a name here. Which name I have to give? What is the name that I have to provide here? The action that I'm going to the action that I'm going to perform on the UI, that action name I have to give here. What is the action that I'm going to perform now? Login. Application is already launched. Now the next action that I'm going to perform is login. So that action name I have to give here, login, and click OK. Now you see this insert end transaction got enabled, but don't click it. Before clicking end transaction, what you have to do? You have to go and perform the action manually on the UI. So go ahead and enter the username and password and click on login button. Okay. Now, now wait for 4 or 5 seconds or until the page loads, and then click on end transaction, insert end transaction. So here we are ending login. Here we are ending login. Okay, done with login. What is the next step? What is the next step? Launch is done, login is done. What is the next step? Logout. So again, click on insert start transaction and enter the step name that you are going to perform, that is logout. Then click on OK and go ahead and manually click on sign off button, which is displayed on the left hand side. Okay, menu bar. So click on sign off. The application logged out And what you have to do, wait for 4 or 5 seconds and click on insert end transaction and click on log out. Done. All the steps are recorded. Now you have to click on stop recording. You have to click on stop recording. Okay. Now once you click on stop recording, the script will be generated. It will generate the code. Okay, it will generate the code, it will generate the script for the functionality that we have recorded. This is the recording report which it is generating, which we will discuss again in our upcoming session. Now go to this place where the script got recorded. Okay, so how many lines of code? Approximately some 50 or 60 lines of code that it got generated. Now understand this code. It's easy only to understand. I'll tell you how to. If you see this particular line number 33, what it says? It says LR underscore start underscore transaction login. Did you get why this piece of this line got generated? Because you inserted start transaction during recording. You inserted start transaction and you entered name as login. That's the reason this step got recorded. And then manually you went and performed login step. That means manually you went and entered username, password, and clicked on login button. Okay, then when you performed that action, this piece of code generated. Okay, and after that you clicked on end transaction, insert end transaction. That's where this piece of code generated for login. So this is start transaction login, this is end transaction for login, and in between whatever is there, that is the code related to login. That is the code related to login. You can see here the username that I passed, the password that I passed. Yes or no? Username that I passed and password that I passed. So what this is LR start transaction login. This is LR end transaction login. That means during recording you clicked on insert start transaction, insert end transaction, right? That one. So in between whatever you see, that is the code related to login. If you scroll little bit down, you see LR start transaction logout and LR end transaction logout. LR start transaction logout, LR end transaction logout. In between whatever you are seeing, that is related to, that code is related to, that request is related to logout. Okay, now if I scroll up little bit, okay, again I'm seeing login here, LR start transaction login, LR end transaction login. In between whatever is there, that is related to login. We all know this. If I scroll little bit up, can anyone tell what is this code related to? Can anyone tell what is this code related to then? Anyone?
It's launching the application.
Yes, it is launching the application. It is launching the application. Okay, it is launching the application. Yes, exactly right. But if you observe carefully, there is no start transaction and there is no end transaction for that, for this. Okay, do you see any end transaction here after this request, or do you see any start transaction before this? No. Why? The reason is the reason is when you click on record button, okay, and when you are clicking on start recording here, the Firefox is already launching the URL. And even before we insert start transaction and insert end transaction, the application is already launched. That's the reason you are not seeing insert start transaction, insert end transaction for launch. However, you can add it. Okay. However, you can add it. Ignore this, guys, not required. Here, observe carefully line number 21. Here you can add it. LR underscore start underscore transaction. Okay. Why it is important? Because when you write start transaction, end transaction, then only it will calculate how much time it has taken for launch, how much time it has taken for login and all those things. Okay, so here inside LR underscore start underscore transaction, within double quotes, you have to write the transaction name. What is the transaction? Launch. Then where exactly you have to end? Can anyone tell where exactly I have to write LR underscore end transaction? Which line number? After which line number I have to write? Can anyone tell?
33, after 33.
Yeah, I mean after 31 you can write. That's fine. It's a good answer. After 31 you can write anywhere. LR underscore end underscore transaction. LR underscore end underscore transaction. And here the same name whatever you have given in the start transaction, same name you have to give here also, and then write LR underscore auto. We will discuss all these things in our upcoming session. Okay, what is LR auto, what happens if you don't give same name, and all those stuff. Okay, now you see you have LR start transaction for launch, and then you this is the request